traffic laws. We all drive too fast. But the word per, P-E-R, means division. This means divide. Cent, C-E-N-T, is actually a word that means a special number. How many years in a century? How many cents in a dollar? The word cent, C-E-N-T, is a Greek word that means 100. Cent means 100. That's all it means. So if I have 16%, 16%, it's a nickname. Not a nickname, it's a nick way of writing it. I want you to look at this symbol. 16 per cent. 16%, that symbol is divided by 100. That's all the percent means. 16% is the fraction 16 over 100. Because we break things into 100 so often. Because we break things into 100 so often, we've got a shortcut way of talking about it. That's what percent is. Percent's a fraction. The denominator is always 100. The per tells you it's division. The word cent tells you you're dividing by 100. It might as well have said 16 divided by 100. Percent is not a mystery. It's just a fraction. What we're going to have to be able to do in this class, back up. The letter R will usually be shortcut for the word rate. A rate. A rate, what's your rate of speed? Miles per hour. A rate is always a division. And it's usually a percent. Almost always a percent. How many of you are lucky enough to have a mortgage? Okay? In a house, you're buying a house, you have an interest rate. You know, if you're lucky, it's 3 something. If you're not so lucky, it's 4 something. If it's 5 something, talk to somebody about refinancing. Okay? A rate is a percent. How many of you are unlucky enough to have a car loan? More hands in the air. Okay? I'm promising you, you're paying interest. And the interest is figured on a rate of interest. It's always a percent. So when they ask for the rate of something, they're asking for a percent. The strange thing is there's no good way to do arithmetic with percents. Arithmetic isn't done with percents. Arithmetic is done with decimals or fractions. So what we've got to be able to do is we've got to be able to change a percent into a decimal in order to do arithmetic with it. But when we do the arithmetic, we get a decimal. If the answer is, what's the rate? You got to be able to change it back into a percent. So the skill, what I want to talk about, is what I have written on the front of the board. I'm going to make you move that thing all around. How do we change a decimal to a percent? How do we change a percent to a decimal? And how do we change a fraction to a percent? That's the skill I want to talk about. And it's really pretty darn easy. If you read this, you can read it 0.25. You can also read it 25 hundredths. Hundredths. It's a decimal. Percent, you know, we'll use that symbol. 0.25 is equal to 25%. This one is already hundredths. That's the same number. This is 25 per hundred. This is 25 per hundred, 25 hundredths. 0.7, a little bit harder. It's where you were talking about, I don't have to write that zero down. That number and that number are the same number. 7/10, 70 100ths. So this one is 70%. 70%. Now this one's strange. This one's strange. You know, that's less than 1. That's less than 1. This one is more than 1. It's going to be more than 100%. What have I done? There was a decimal here. I don't see a decimal there, and I don't see a decimal there. They're there. So many daggone places in math we don't write things down. In algebra, we don't write 1x. We only write x. We don't write x to the first power. We only write x. Square roots. We don't write a 2 here. Square root of 4. We don't write that 2 down. You know that it's there. It's there in your mind. Remember, this stuff was invented 2,000 years ago. People have been doing percents for longer than that. Money existed 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. And people wanted to make sure, yeah, I'll lend you $10, but at the end of the week, you owe me 11. People have always been collecting interest. That's where percents work. They've been around, and because it was so darn hard to write it down, they left it out. So we don't write 7-0. We just write the 7. But when we write it as percent, the decimal is here. In fact, let me use the blue pen. There's a decimal. We just don't write the blue one down because it doesn't really help. Here, this will be 320%. All we're doing is moving a decimal 2 places. We're just moving a decimal 2 places and sticking the percent sign. That's all you do. If you have to change a decimal to a percent, move the decimal 2 places to the right and put in a percent sign. This one, move it 2 places to the right. All you write, you don't write that 0. You leave it out because it doesn't do anything. Here, 25.6%. That time, the decimal has to be written because when you've moved it, it has a purpose. It's the easiest thing you have to do. Decimal or percent. You just move the decimal 2 places to the right and stick the percent sign. If that was all we had to do, life would be great. But we're also going to do the reverse of it. Now the danger is you say, I'm not going to move it 2 places, but which way do I move it? And that's where you'll get confused. If you move it the wrong direction, you've made an error. Okay? Here, 16%, is there a decimal in that number? There is. It's not written down, but it's there. This one has a decimal. That one, it's written down. This one has a decimal. That one, it's written down. But they all have decimals. They're there. But if we start with the percent per 100, if we're going to write it as a decimal, we just move it 2 places to the left. We got to move this one 2 places to the left. We got to move this one 2 places to the left. We got to move this one 2 places to the left. It's just a matter of moving the decimal. Percent to decimal, decimal to percent. It's always 2 places. The piece you gotta remember is which way to move it down. You're always allowed to use your notes. Certainly a homework problem, a quiz, use your notes. On the midterm, you're going to be allowed 1 page of notes that you write. I think I have this written on the board. Decimal to percent, if you go to decimal to percent, 2 places, to the right. That's the key word. 2 places to the right. If it's the reverse of that, percent to decimal, 2 places to and it's a piece of cake. Just there's nothing to it. Now, remembering what we did on day 1, what if you have to change a fraction to a percent? What if you have to change 1/2 into a percent? Well, the first thing you do is change a half into a decimal. But you got a calculator to do that. You already know that it's 0.5. 1 divided by 2, hit enter, it tells you 0.5. Now the problem is a decimal to a percent. All right, decimal. You already know how to do it. You can do these things back and forth, any direction. We'll practice it. All right, let me bring up some things from your page notes, day 3, and we'll practice a couple of these. I've got a couple of examples shown there. 25% is 25 parts out of 100, 25 out of 100. So if you had to reduce it, you could reduce that fraction, but your calculator will do that for you. You can reduce the fraction to 1/4. 50%, you already know that it's a half. Everybody knows 50% is a half. But make sure you understand the technique. Because then when I give you one you don't know, you still know what to do. Example 1, change all 3 of those. I'm going to erase what I have on the board because I'm going to, okay, is everybody comfortable with what we've got? Decimal percent, 2 places to the right. Percent to decimal, 2 places to the left. What a dummy. If I was doing this again, I should have written that one over on this side. I should have written it on the right. And I should have written that one on the left. Okay? That would have been much better teaching. Got those down. Do example 1. Make sure you can change those.
Are we in chapter 3?
We're on chapter number 3. Chapter number 3. And it's the first example.
What's your face right? What happened?
It's very good. Is it like really hard?
No, it was just hard.
So 0.25, changing it to a decimal would be, I'm sorry, it's a decimal, changing it to a percent would be, move it to the right, and it's 25%. Move it to the right, it's 38%. Move it to the right, it's 65%. It's not difficult to do. Same type of thing. See if you can change all four of those. Zero 0.7 till you move it 2 places to the right, it's 70%. 2 places. It was here, 2 places. 30%. This is more than 1. That's more than 1. That makes sense. 0.1 would be 10%. 3. Where's the decimal?
After the 3?
It's here, but not written down. When you move it, it's 300%. Example 3. Do the 3 problems there. It's a decimal. We're changing the decimal to a percent. Every time, move it 2 places to the right, and you've got to put the percent sign down. 2 places to the right is 0.57%. I want to talk about this one. That is less than 1%. It's not 1%, it's only 0.57 of 1%. It's less than 1%. That's a real small number. Okay? You know, 0.57 is less than 1. Well, 0.57% is less than 1%. The numbers, I would like them to make sense to you. This one. 0.25%. The decimal moves 2 places to the right. Example 4. 5 of them this time, and they're fractions. So it's a 2-step process. It's a 2-step process. I'm going to go over here where I've talked about fractions. I'm hearing somebody say, "How do you?" Ask me, how do you? I'm an old man. My wife tells me my hearing's bad. I can hear anybody but her. Okay? Who said, "How do you?"
I said it.
You did. Okay?
I said, how do you put it in the, I forgot how to do the fraction on a calculator.
Please. 1. What does this sign? Please look. What does that symbol mean?
Division.
1 divided by 4. When you do 1 divided by 4, what do you get?
0.25.
There it is as a decimal, and as a percent, it's 25%. So it's a 2-step process. Take the fraction, change it to a decimal, and then change the decimal to a percent. Please, they pay me to answer these questions. They pay me fairly well. It's nice. But ask the questions of me. 3/5. 3 divided by 5. 3 divided by 5 gives you 0.6, which is 60%. The next one's 7/8. You know, I should know what 7/8 is. 0.875?
Yes.
Is it? Particularly if you've done any work running a lathe, if you've done any metal work, you've worked with eighths. Some people are familiar with them, some people aren't. Doesn't matter. You've got your calculator. 7 divided by 8 gives you that decimal, and then that's 87.5%. 1 3/4. You got to remember something. How do you put it into your calculator? Remember how to put it into your calculator? Parentheses 1 plus 3/4, end parentheses. Now what it gives you is that decimal, and then that's 175%. Here's the thing. It's true of all subjects, but it's probably more true of math than anything else. What I teach you on day one, or what I taught you on day one, you have to be able to do day 4. You can't say, oh, day 1's over. We'll be using that calculator with fractions every day of the course. And 1 2/3, troublemaker, because it's not going to come out so hot. That's how you type it in. Parentheses 1 plus 2/3. The way we type a mixed number, it's got to have the parentheses and it's got to have the addition. What it will tell you, I don't know how many 6s it does, but eventually it has a 7. This one, this one is a troublemaker. It's just a problem. It's a problem. How do I best want to explain this?
It's only 2 times. It'd be 166%.
166. If it said round to the nearest percent, it would be 167%.
Yes.
If it said round to 1 decimal place, 166.7. If it said round to 2, 166.67. You have to look at the word. The problem is, it doesn't tell you how to round it off. It doesn't give you an answer. If you're not given good directions, and that problem does not give you good directions, every one of us is going to come up with our own way. Computers won't accept all. That's why I went through this morning with you what I did. If that ends up costing you a right answer, I'll change it. As a human being, I would have given you directions. So let's round this off to 2 decimal places. To 2 decimal places. You don't round off the fraction, you don't round off the decimal, you round off the percent. So to 2 decimal places,
1.67.
to 2 decimal places, that would be it. Let's create a class rule. A class rule. This is not true in all mathematics. It's not true when you take your next math course. When I'm done with you right before Thanksgiving, you start a statistics course. This rule will not apply to statistics. This is a class rule. If there are no directions about rounding off, if there are no directions, 2 decimal places. Fair enough? If there are no directions given, always 2 decimal places. If that costs you a wrong answer, I'll change it. I can't go in and change what the computer accepts or not. I can change your score. So that's a class rule. Please understand it that way. Now, they don't give me the power to change the way everybody in the whole world does things. But in this classroom, that's the way we're going to do it. Example 5. Change them. Write the following fractions as percents. See if you can get those done. How I would do that. First of all, many of you will already know 3/4 is 75%. Most of you will know that intuitively. You've all lived enough years in your life. But if you had to write it all down, it's 0.75, and that's 75%. 1/3, change it to a decimal. It's 0.3333, and the 3's continue. In this class, that's the way we're going to write the answer. 2 decimal places. Don't round it off until the last thing. The last thing you do is round off. Don't round off till the end. 5/8, I'm pretty sure you get 0.625 out of your calculator. So that would be 62.5. Look what I did. I forgot, yeah. It's a fraction. I forgot the percent signs.
Huh?
But that's the next problem. No wonder I forgot the percent signs. That's still a problem. There's the percent sign, there's the percent sign. This one is 62.5%. 3/4 is 75%, 1/3 33.33%, 5/8 62.5%. 1.5. Remember, that will give you 1.5, which is 150%. Decimal 2 places. Don't forget parentheses. This will give you 2 point, all the 3's. You'll make it 233.33%. Are we good? I want to go through table by table. 5 of you. Look at it. We're good. Okay?
We both lost.
Feeling good. 100%. Table of 5. Use my contact, please. I can see your eyes. Okay? You good? Okay? Everybody, we're good with this.
Yes, we're good.
There's 2 of you.
Yeah.
Gravy.
And 5. Now we're going to do the reverse order. Number 6, we've got 25%. We're going to change it into a decimal. Let's go take a look at it here. 25%. We've got 142%. We've got 37.5%. They give you hints. They've already told you it's 37.5%. It gave you a hint. How do we change a percent to a decimal? First of all, there's already a decimal sign. There's already a decimal sign, even though it's not written down. It's there. Every number has a decimal point. Just more than half the time we leave it out. All we have to do is move the decimal 2 places to the left and erase the percent sign. Move the decimal 2 places to the left and erase the percent sign. Move the decimal 2 places to the left and erase the percent sign. Then they change a little bit. They get into, there's some words around it. So let's take a look. Write a percent as a fraction by first changing the percent to a decimal and then using your calculator. So number 7 says the following table has data from the American Red Cross, an organization that helps people in times of need, such as after hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes. Convert each percent to a fraction and reduce the fraction to lowest terms. So we've got each of these. Let's make sure we can do them. By the way, what I'm showing you earlier, all I'm going to write is 0.4. 0.4, 0.40, same thing. Then I use my calculator. When I've got 0.28, math enter enter. What do you get?
7/25.
7/25. Point 36.
9/25.
0.4.
205.
They don't all end in 5s. Okay, that's a coincidence. They don't all end in 5s. Thank you. These are tricky. These are tricky. 1/5 of 1%. 1/5 of 1%. Watch me do these. Watch me. I want to change my screen to my calculator.